Hi and welcome to Old Time Knowledge. In this video, I'm going to be making a delicious pork loin. A few weeks ago, you might have seen my Sam's Club haul video where I got a bunch of different meats and things like that, and one was this massive long pork loin that I cut in quarters and froze them individually. Each one was a little over 2 pounds, or right around 2 pounds. And so in this video, I'm going to be showing you my absolute favorite way to make this. This is so good. So I've just taken it out of the food saver bag. I'm going to get it kind of patted off because I don't want all this liquid on there. I'm going to be adding oil and seasonings and everything, and so you don't want all the moisture and everything on the pork loin when you get started with that. Okay, so first thing, we're going to start with just a little bit of olive oil, no more than a tablespoon. I'm just drizzling it on there, and I'm going to coat the pork loin really good in this. By the way, I have that skillet over beside this plate getting hot. So it's getting hot right now, so it'll be ready to use. So I have one gloved hand, and the other one I took the glove off because it had touched the raw pork, and I'm really big on avoiding cross-contamination. And so I'm going to use the other hand to sprinkle the seasoning on. Sometimes I use my own seasoning blend of variation of this, but in this particular case, I used a store brand. And I'm realizing right now that even though I thought I had the bottle right in front of the camera, I didn't, but it's the Aldi Steak Seasoning. It's just the Aldi Steak Seasoning. It's basically Montreal Steak Seasoning. I make this like myself and have it on hand all the time, but I wanted to try this particular one, and it comes out just like the one that I use, that I make myself. So I'm just using a sharp knife to just prick little holes all over this pork loin, and I'm going to get it on all the sides and make sure I'm rubbing the seasoning in really good. So the whole point behind this is it helps the seasonings penetrate, and it also helps the heat, I guess, get in better when it's in the oven. And you know what? You'll find all different kinds of recipes online about how long to bake a pork loin, you know, what temperature it should be at and everything else. I'm not going to tell you an exact time to bake this. I'm going to tell you that in this case, this took probably about, after I'd seared it on both sides, which you're going to see in a minute, it probably took about 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes to finish cooking and get to the correct temperature internally, which is 145 degrees. And then you take it out and let it rest for 10 minutes. So you see I'm totally coating this pork loin in the seasoning. You don't want to be shy about it. Now this would not be for those really skinny little pork tenderloins. This is for like a larger pork loin. With the little like more skinny tender ones, I don't usually get those, so I'm not even going to tell you the instructions for that right now. That's not something I make a lot. This is an economical meat, so this is what I make more often. But I have got this coated really well in the seasoning, and my skillet is good and hot. So I'm just going to take this pork loin and just place it right in this super hot skillet. By the way, I did spray the skillet with a little bit of the olive oil spray just to make sure it's got a little bit of, you know, oil on it before the pork goes in there. I know it's coated in oil and seasonings, but it's just what I do. So anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to get this seared on all sides. You want it to be just really totally, you know, kind of toasty and definitely cooked with a little bit of browning on all sides before you move this into the oven. And because your skillet is super hot, this shouldn't take a very long time. And as it's cooking, you're going to turn it and move it on all sides to make sure, even the ends, to make sure they get seared really well, because that helps to lock the juices in while it's baking in the oven. Now I have the oven preheated to 400 degrees, and that's where I'm going to bake it at once I do transfer it. So I'm going to speed this part up of it being in the skillet just so you can see how it goes as it's browning on all sides, and you can see how I turn it. I use tongs to turn it with. I'm not going to be piercing this anymore with a fork or anything. The only other time it's going to get pierced is when I'm testing it in the oven with my meat thermometer, because I want to, as I said, make sure that it's cooked to an internal temperature in the very center of the pork loin at 145 degrees. That's the safe recommended temperature for pork when you're cooking a pork roast in the oven. And it's, you know, it doesn't take that long. This isn't like a beef roast or something where, you know, it might take, you know, an hour or so for it to cook all the way. Of course, it's a smaller piece of meat. But as long as you cook it to 145, and then when you take it out, look at that. See that sort of caramelized color on that side where the fat and the spices and everything have just started browning? It's beautiful. So I'm just letting the same thing happen on all the sides. But in any case, once you let it get to 145 internally, and then you take it out, you just put it on a plate. And, you know, I just lay a piece of aluminum foil over the top. I don't even put the aluminum foil tightly around it because I don't want it to really keep cooking. I just put the aluminum foil over the top just so it's just not totally sitting out, and just, if there's a fan in the room or something, it's not cooling it down. But what that does is it lets the juices redistribute throughout the meat and makes it ready so that when you want to cut it and serve it, it's nice and juicy. So this is about ready. So I'm going to transfer it into my oven, and I'm just going to let it cook at 400 degrees, probably for at least 30 minutes total. But about halfway through, I'm going to turn it over in the skillet, and that's just to make sure it's cooking evenly throughout. Okay, so at this point I had tested it internally. It had hit 145 degrees. As I said, the total cooking time ended up being, I think, about 45 minutes, something like that. But it's done. So I'm taking it out, and I'm just going to let this hang out on my stovetop for a while I get my vegetables in the air fryer. I'm just going to air fry some, like a mixture of broccoli and cauliflower and what is it? I don't know if it's the California blend, but it's one of those, and I'm just going to put it in my air fryer and let the vegetables get nice and crispy. So I'm going to cover this over with some aluminum foil, and then I will show you what it looks like when I slice it up. And I'm actually excited about this part more so than usual because I got a new knife sent to me, like a really fancy knife, y'all, a really nice knife made by Nakano Knives. And Nakano Knives is a Japanese knife company. They make really high quality, chef quality knives, but they're made like at a reasonable price point. They're not ridiculously through the roof. They're actually reasonably priced. But they sent me one to try out, and I said I would try it out and then talk about it in a video. But here you can see I don't know, hopefully it'll show up on the camera, Nakano. So this is not made in China stuff. This is a Japanese made knife. It is quality. I can tell just by looking at it and by holding it. I'm afraid to even touch the blade because I know how sharp it is. If you don't know this, like Japanese companies, Japanese craftsmen are known for their knives. They're known for making super sharp, high quality, durable knives. And we're going to see how this one cuts this pork loin. This will be the moment of truth. And this particular knife is called Santoku knife. I don't know what that means, but I do know that this knife cut through this pork loin like butter. Look at that. I'm just going through. The only problem I'm having is my plates wanting to slide around on top of my stove top. And I probably should have put a towel underneath of it, but you know, hindsight's 20/20. But this thing cut through this roast like a champ. I'm going to be enjoying this knife for a long time to come. Look at this, y'all. This is just, and I'm going to tell you, okay, the juices are starting to come out of this. I'm also going to be putting the juices from the skillet on the plate. This is so delicious. This is so flavorful. My mouth is watering again just looking at this. But I hope you'll try this pork loin recipe and you'll tell me what you think in the comments below. You know, you can use whatever seasoning blend you love. Another good one that we sometimes do is Tony Chicheri. I don't know if that's how you say it, but that Cajun seasoning blend, but it's pretty spicy. We use that one sometimes too. But the Montreal Steak Seasoning, or like I used in this one, the Aldi Steak Seasoning, is my favorite. But this knife, if you are interested in checking out their knives and you're interested in getting this exact knife, I'm going to link to it in the show notes below. And in fact, because I'm obviously recording the audio after I made this meal and everything, I knew that I loved this knife. This company was gracious enough to give me a discount code that I can share. So if you want to get one of these knives, you can get one at a pretty nice discount. So check out that link and that coupon code below and get you one of these knives if you're serious about having a good quality knife without paying through the nose for it. So Now I'm going to get my roasted vegetables ready, well, my air fryer vegetables ready, and get this served up. But I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.